My name is Hazel Mullisham and this is the Light on Leeds podcast. On this episode, I was really excited to speak to Johnny Cosmic, who was the inspiration behind, well, he had the inspiration for the Leeds Tarot, which is a deck of 78 tarot cards with a different artist from or very nearby Leeds. They're absolutely beautiful. You should check out the Instagram account, obviously, podcast notes. It'll be in there. It was a great conversation about art and about inspiration, about what you do when people are perhaps not quite enjoying the art that you've made and how to feel about that. But yeah, he's a really, really great person to speak to. It was a fantastic interview and I am sure that you'll enjoy it. On this week's episode of the Light on Leeds podcast, I have Johnny Cosmic, who has remotely connected to me. Hi, Johnny, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine. Thank you.
Good. Johnny, you've come along to tell me a little bit about Leeds Tarot. Can you explain to me what is Leeds Tarot and why did it come about?
So, Leeds Tarot is a tarot deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's comprised of the majority of them are Leeds-based artists. Every single card in the deck is a different artist. So there's 78 cards in a deck, 78 artists in total. And most of them are either from Leeds, studied in Leeds, live in Leeds. There are the odd few that are from the outskirts, but not too far afield.
Right, and what was the inspiration behind this project?
I'm a freelance illustrator / artist, graphic designer kind of thing. And during the pandemic and the lockdown, I wasn't getting any work. And I've always wanted to do a tarot deck myself, but it's quite a big undertaking with there being so many cards. As I was speaking to some of my friends who also do similar kind of line of work to me, they we're all kind of saying, you know, we're not getting any jobs and we're all feeling a bit flat. So I thought it'd be nice to do a collaborative piece with just a few of us. And then the kind of idea sort of snowballed into why don't we get every card as a different person? So I don't have 78 artist quote unquote friends.
Yeah.
So I got a small pool of us together to get the ball rolling, and we just did all at random. We picked out of a hat the names, and then we dealt a card in true tarot style. So it was all done at random. And when we got our card, we just sort of cracked on and did it everybody sort of did it in their own way.
Yeah, in their own style.
In their own style, yeah, in their own kind of practice process. So most of us, to start with, were just straight up illustrators, whether that be in ink or some people use iPads. And then I set up the Instagram account and sort of just let it organically do its thing. I put a little small manifesto as the first post, and then people slowly started to follow and ask questions and get in touch and said, "Can I do a card?" And I wasn't at all like, I didn't have any kind of vetting process. It was a first come first serve basis. So if you were interested in doing a card, I just said yes and I waited till I got another handful of names, like 10 or more. Yeah. And then I'd do another draw, put them all names in a hat and do it the same way. And I tried to film each one of these processes. So on the Instagram account, you can see the videos of me doing it, picking the names out and then picking the card, showing it to the camera so it's all fair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and so the idea was basically to showcase artists' work.
Yeah, it was sort of trying to get people to be doing something like collaboratively through the pandemic, when some people weren't getting work, or some people were just depressed and wanted. I was just thinking of something to get everybody to come together in a way artistically.
Yeah.
And I myself have always wanted to do like I said, a tarot deck, but also there's many projects. I'm a bit of a, what would you call it? I'm not always a doer. I'm more of a sayer, and I've never really fully finished any project that I've put my mind to. They're always sort of just half done, and I knew that if I did this with other people, I'd have to get it done.
Yeah, because of the pressure of other people.
Yeah, and it was once I started it, I kind of was asking myself, why the hell have I put myself through this?
Yeah.
Because it was an absolute nightmare to orchestrate. I pretty much was doing it on my own in terms of admin and emailing people, keeping it ticking over,
Hmm.
and it was all a learning curve for me because I've never done anything like that. Liaising with all the different artists and trying to do it in a very positive and professional manner.
Yeah.
There was some times I was very frustrated when people didn't meet deadlines or just complete just stopped replying to emails,
Yeah.
and that had a knock-on effect to the all of the other deadlines and all the other artists. So it was quite stressful at times,
I can
but
imagine.
we did it in the end. It took just over a year, the full start process from getting the artists dishing out all of the different cards to the different artists, and then waiting for them to get it done, sending it off to the printers, all that malarkey. But now it's out in the real world. It's a physical product, and I'm very pleased with the turnout, and I'm humbled by all of the positive response that we've had from it as well.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm not surprised that it took a year. And really, that doesn't seem that long when you think about 78 actual cards. And I understand what you mean about the admin. It's like with the podcast, this is just the actual podcast is the tip of the iceberg. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
all
yeah.
of the arranging before and after that takes all the time, really. Um, did you did you get some nice surprises when you saw some of the interpretations of the cards?
That's one of the most interesting things. You see, whenever somebody said they wanted to do a card, I would look at their page or, whatever they've done before, and then you'd kind of get an idea in your head of what they might be doing.
Yeah,
But quite a few of the artists sent stuff in that were not actually like what they typically do,
yeah,
almost as if they used it as a way of experimenting a different style, or maybe just something a bit outside the box of what they usually do. Some people, on the other hand, did exactly as I expected,
yeah.
but in no shape or form did I ever say this isn't what I was wanting or hoped for. It was totally up to the artist to just give me what they did, and then I would just put it on a card.
Right, so there was sort of no stipulations. It was just a representation of the card that was picked out for
Yeah,
them.
so I just said once I'd send an email saying, "This is your card," and basically the only guidelines were that it had to be a certain DPI so that I could put it onto the card.
Hmm.
Um, it had to fit a certain shape again, so that I wasn't infringing on their image,
Yeah,
cropping it, trying to get it into the card template. So I did send a template over with every email, and I think the only other thing I said was don't have any words on it because I was the one that did all the writing to, you
yeah.
know, um,
So you could keep it all in the same sort of font or style.
yeah, and I did say if anybody did want to do any writing, just let me know so we can just figure out what is, because the writing would detract from the image
Yeah, of
kind
course.
of thing, and also I think just because it was trying to be kind of all inclusive, I did sort of stipulate try not to make it too explicit
Yeah.
in terms of art, but then my card does have um, breasts on it.
Well, you are allowed because you're the creator.
Well, it's sort of it, if I when I gave a deck to my mum, and she took it to my grandma to have a look at, and she can only really see partially out of one of her eyes,
Oh.
and she was looking at the cards, and apparently she came to mind. She said, "Oh, that one's Jordan's." Jordan's my real name, by the way.
Okay.
Obviously, I use the name Johnny Cosmic just as a quote unquote kind of like art pseudonym,
Yeah.
and it's I find things easier that way.
Do you mean you find it easier because giving yourself sort of another persona gives you some sort of artistic freedom in a way?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think I mean that name is linked to because I used to do, well, I still do the artwork for a night called Cosmic Slop,
Okay.
and that night has been going for over 10 years, and it's a party kind of club night, which is a fundraiser for the charity MAP Music and Arts Production.
Okay.
And because that was my first ever kind of gig as an artist, and everybody sort of was like, "Oh, you're the guy that does the Cosmic Slot," I sort of decided to adopt that into my name.
I think that's a great idea. I must admit, I was a little bit suspicious.
Yeah, it's funny because like when some people just know me as that, and obviously they can't. I mean, I would assume that they don't think that Cosmic is my second name, but it is funny when people go, "Hi Johnny, how are you doing?" And I'm like, and I have to remind myself, "Oh yeah, I've given myself that name."
Yeah, you're two people now.
Yeah.
Have you always been into art yourself? When did it sort of begin for you?
I think I was drawing before I could do anything else.
Really?
Yeah, I've always had a pen in my hand. Um, I went to Leeds Art College in 2005, and then I went to I did a 3-year degree at Leeds Met. It was at the time. So yeah, I've studied in Leeds all my life doing art.
And you've managed to make a living out of that? Because I imagine it's one of those industries that can be very difficult to
It's
maintain.
yeah, it's difficult, and it peaks and troughs, and sometimes I have loads of stuff on at once, and sometimes I'm kind of like, well, what am I doing now? Um, it's sort of it's interesting though how most, like, at one point I had a website, and I only use Instagram,
Hmm.
and even that, it's not how I kind of get things. It's sort of just word of mouth. All my jobs seem to be friends of friends or people out and about networking. I live in the centre of town, so that's always quite handy. Just I drink in town a lot, and I do a lot of stuff for bars,
Yeah.
and I kind of, yeah.
Is that quite a nice way? I mean, I know it must be sort of precarious, but is it quite a nice way to get work because you're always getting sort of commissions that you would be interested in because it's all quite organic?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, I've never really done anything like overly corporate in my work. It's always got an air of kind of freedom about it.
Hmm.
Um, I'm asked to do stuff based on, usually it's like oh, I saw that you did this. Could you do one for me, but make it not too much like that, so it looks sort of different.
Yeah.
And it sort of ends up, when that keeps happening down the line, I'm in a position now where I feel like I'm mimicking my own style in a way.
All right.
Um, I actually sometimes have a typical art kind of thought process of, am I even an artist? What even is art? Like,
Yeah. But
I
those are all great philosophical questions that I think artists in any realm ask themselves at some point.
yeah. I mean, I have a love hate thing with art. I can, you know, I will look at something and think that's good, but it won't stop there. It'll be, could I do that? Could I do that better, or is that so good that that's well beyond my remit?
Yeah.
And it's a constant battle. I can never fully appreciate stuff. There's always that level of deconstructing things.
Yeah, you're always looking at things with a critical sort of artist's eye.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
And
It's a bit of a burden.
I can imagine. And what would you describe your style as?
Um, like, well, if back to my grandma, she describes it as Mickey Mouse with tits.
That is perfect.
Um, I would describe my personal stuff, which I haven't had chance to really focus on for some years, was kind of quite. It was pop art, but a bit perverted pop art.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of like kind of weird. Yeah, I'd get Disney characters and I'd mess with them. I like doing stuff that kind of provokes some sort of talking
Yeah,
point.
yeah, so as like subverting people's expectations of
Yeah, it all
images that you're
started
used
at
to.
university. I think we got this brief, and everybody on my course we were given a number of classical paintings to redo in our own way,
Hmm.
kind of akin to how it works with the tarot deck.
Right.
You know, there's already an image out there, but you interpret that and redistribute it in how you see fit in your process. And I picked this. I can't remember what it's called now. I think it's called Lunch on the Grass, and it's a classical painting of two men having a picnic with a naked woman.
Okay.
And I just decided to just do the woman, but from their kind of point of view, from their perspective.
Right.
And but then just to kind of make it stand out, make myself stand out from the rest of everybody else on my course, I did it really big in really bright colours, and I decided to give her a hairy chest.
I love that idea.
And because it was so she had like hairy legs, hairy chest, and then because it was so well received and everybody was like, oh, you're the guy that did that picture,
Yeah.
then I just ran with it. So everything from then was trying to kind of, how can I outdo the last piece in shock value?
Yeah.
So I did, I'd do like a guy with breasts or a woman with an appendage, and I did lots of that kind of stuff. And it's interesting now how, that's in terms of what's going on in the world, and how we there's lots of, how do I put it,
Sort of ideas about gender fluidity.
yeah, and that's a big thing that we're talking about now. And I feel, I'm not saying that I was beyond my time, but
Yeah.
I was doing artwork based around these kind of issues, but for no other reason that I just thought they looked interesting.
Yeah, but it is really interesting because it's this whole idea of sort of questioning what is normal and what is, usual. And it sounds like you were already thinking about those concepts.
Yeah, and I still, the thing that's difficult now is, so my card that I did for the deck has two Disney characters bearing their chests,
Hmm.
and a few people have said that they really like my card, but one of the people who bought a deck tagged the Leeds Tarot account into their post that they'd purchased this deck, and they were happy with the deck. But then somebody had commented on it, a friend of theirs, saying, I really wanted to get this deck, but the Chariot card, which was my card, I found really offensive. So I don't really want to buy it. And the person who had made the post and bought the deck agreed with them and said, I won't be using the deck like I usually would because of that. And it's a shame that card is explicit.
And how did you feel about that?
My initial reaction, because I wasn't tagged in it personally,
Yeah.
but I saw it as from the other hat of being Leeds Tarot.
Hmm.
My initial reaction was to comment on it as me and apologise, or kind of ask them what it was exactly that they found offensive.
Hmm.
But then I thought, no, do you know what? That's the whole point. That's why I do art, and that's what art does. It provokes a reaction and a
Yeah.
talking point. I think I'd be more upset if it wasn't talked about at all.
Yeah, if it just was sort of passed by with no comment.
Yeah, because then the very next day, because it made me feel bad as well. But the very
Yeah,
next
because
day,
nobody would want to go out and purposely offend anybody, would they?
no, that's just it. I don't have, like, I wouldn't want to offend anyone. and but my art practice has done in the past, and as soon as I'm aware that it has done, it makes me feel bad and uncomfortable. But I would never want to stop doing art because I've offended one person.
No, and also I'm sure you wouldn't want it to influence the next piece of art that you do. You know, I mean, I think if you went around with that in your head and thinking, oh, you know, I can't offend anyone, then that would really stunt your creativity, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and this is something that I'm really struggling with at the moment, because some of the things that I would have drawn in the past without even thinking about it, I now I wouldn't do, or like I'm really second guess everything that I put out there now, because
Yeah.
I'm really cautious about the times that we're living in, and you know, there's a lot of triggers for
Yeah, it's very
people.
difficult, isn't it? Because on the one hand, I think it's a great argument that, you know, art should provoke, definitely. And if you
Yeah,
look back over art history, of course, there's, you know, numerous examples of this. But I think you're right that we're also living in a time where, you know, especially, I don't know, you know, your racial background, but for me as a white person, you have to be really careful because of the history of just history, basically, and
yeah.
you know, and being aware of it, and I would never want to offend on that score. But yeah, I understand what you mean. There's a lot of cultural sensitivity, and you would never want to be on sort of on the wrong side of the line of that.
No, but it's really difficult when somebody has such a strong opinion about something, and it's almost like only one person can be right.
Yeah,
So yeah, I try, instead of the way I deal with things is, instead of having a debate, I think it's best to just let people have their say, and then not. I try not to get involved in debates and arguments, because
yeah. I think you're probably right because it just leads to more negativity because
yeah,
you know, it's like when you see people on Facebook just shouting into a void about, you know, and I just think, what's the point? Like, I can't. I mean, I like to have like a nuanced debate with people who I know, but
yeah.
I'm not particularly interested in, you know, convincing other people of my opinion.
No, no, and to that, that's how I feel, and I wouldn't want to kind of get into a heated discussion about anything really, because
Mm,
you once you start going down that line,
yeah,
it's only going to get worse. So with what I was saying, I try to just power through it, and hopefully people don't get offended. But what is interesting though is that there are other cards in the deck. Like there was one particular card that somebody's done, and there's well, mine's not the only card that's got breasts on. So I was just thinking,
what is the nature
what?
of your breasts that are offensive?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe it wasn't that, because the two characters do have ball gags. Now, is it the fetish thing that they found offensive? I don't know, but
Mm.
still, the very next day after that happened, somebody else purchased a deck and messaged me directly and said, yours is one of my favourite cards. So
Oh, that's a nice balance.
yeah, and you get, that's what you get. But I mean, I'm super self-critical of my own artwork, and I now, looking at my card in that deck, I'm not actually fully happy with it, but I don't think I'm ever happy with anything that I do personally.
No.
But the cards, all of the cards together, I think I'm just so chuffed with, and there's not a single card that I just don't think has just absolute merit. I
Yeah, I think the thing is, you know, if you're creating a deck with 78 cards, you know, just statistically, the chances are that somebody's not going to like one of them.
One of them, and yeah, I've seen that. I've seen people flick through and they've gone, oh, like that, don't like that, don't like that, and it's just it's interesting, because then another person will think the complete opposite, and it is so diverse, the deck. We've got, we've got people of different backgrounds in terms of gender, in terms of race, and it's all encompassing is this deck. And again, it all happened totally organically, and I think the end result really kind of somebody said to me that obviously out there in the artistic world, tarot's 10 a penny. You can get decks by so many different varying styles of art.
Yeah.
But I think, and this is going to be a big kind of statement, but I think this is the first one that's ever had every card a different artist.
It's just such a great idea because there's just, I mean, tarot cards are just so beautiful. Is there a reason why you chose tarot particularly? Was it because of the scope, the 78 cards, or is it because of a particular interest that you have?
It leads from my particular interest in tarot and the fact that off the kind of the most famous Rider-Waite deck, it's sort of all the imagery on that is so iconic. And I just thought it'd be really interesting to see everybody else's take on it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mine was kind of almost a direct copy, but then I just did my usual, I'm going to mess with this.
Yeah.
Whereas some people's look nothing like anything that's been done before for that card. And that's, again, what's interesting about it and why I thought it'd be such a good project to do. But in terms of it being a tarot deck, what really kind of, there was one moment during the height of lockdown, I was sorting through lots of stuff that belonged to my father who passed away a few years before, and he used to work at Waddington's, the card and game factory in Leeds, back in the day. And he, amongst his stuff, he had this really old Waddington's pack of tarot that I'd never seen before, and it was just really beautiful. And looking through it, it got me thinking about how I could do something sort of in dedication to him.
Yeah.
Because I was missing him, and I think I mentioned it in my original manifesto, but I've never really kind of put his name on it. But yeah, in this, for me, this whole project I dedicated to him.
I think that's just lovely. How that's a great story. And can I ask you, so you said that, each artist, you just sort of picked the card that they would be doing out of a hat kind of thing.
Yeah.
With yours, did you do the same thing, or did you have one that you particularly wanted to do?
No, so there's a video of us, because at the start, me and a guy called Jamie House, who is in a design team called Endless Visual, which work from the map building. He was kind of helping me get it started off, and he filmed me doing my first draw of the cards.
Yeah.
And in that, I got picked the Chariot, and I think there might even be a bit where when you can see my hand turn it over, I kind of hesitate a bit as if to say, "Oh, what am I going to do on that?" Because I didn't want that card. I wanted something like death or something,
Yeah.
And then looking into the card and what it meant, it was all about, moving forward, like spearheading kind of the project. And it sort of felt like this was perfect. Like, this is all about me and my idea about, kind of taking the reins. So that's why I decided to make my card a self-portrait of me on the Chariot. And there is a little kind of nod to, the film Big with the Zoltar machine.
Of course I do. It's one of my absolute favourites.
So even though I'm in a chariot thing, I think it looks a bit, it still looks quite static. So I've sort of put a nod to me being almost like a Zoltar-esque character. And at the foot of the actual chariot box, there's a bit where it says your card, and it's got the card coming out.
Oh, perfect.
So I'm the dealer of the cards.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And have you had? I know you've spoken a bit about the feedback where it was a little bit people weren't so pleased with particular cards. But in general, is the feedback that you and the other artists have got, has that been really good?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a little like what I call the soft launch. We all so I invited all of the artists to meet me for a drink in Outlaws Yacht Club in town,
Mm-hmm.
and that was just so that I could get to meet everyone, because I've still not met all of the artists in person, and give them all their free deck, because
Oh,
I wasn't able to pay anyone for it.
yeah.
But we did a Kickstarter campaign, and all the money off that funded getting the decks made,
Mm-hmm.
so that I could then give them to all the people who pledged to pledge the to buy a deck, so that they pledged to get one. Then the money from that made it able for me to actually make them.
Mm-hmm.
But then all of the extra ones were to give to be able to give to the artists, and I've still got quite a few left over, which now I'm selling, and the money from that I'm going to be putting towards putting on an exhibition, a large scale exhibition.
Oh, brilliant.
So I'm hoping to get them in somewhere. I'm in talks with a few venues.
Yeah.
Um, I won't mention them because they're not set in stone. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping for somewhere quite big, and to have, when I say large scale exhibition, I want to get the cards printed at about A2,
Oh,
A1
wow.
size
Yeah.
each, and have them all in kind of either all in the same space, to be really kind of like just a big massive display of what we've achieved, or almost like a little art trail.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
So I'm not really fully decided on that yet, but I'm hoping to get all of the logistics of that sorted and have an exhibition on before the end of this year.
That'd be great. Well, let me know how you go with that, and I can always edit the podcast notes to include information so people can come along and see. And
That
if
would be great, yeah.
and if anybody wanted to buy a pack of the cards, how would they go about doing that?
So at the minute, I've got there's a link on our Instagram to an Etsy account.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's been a lot of controversy with Etsy being a bit of like a money grabbing, but I found that it was just the easiest platform for me to use,
Yeah.
and I've made a few sales off that, and there are a few shops in town as well. Not many, but there's colours may vary in the Corn Exchange.
Yeah.
On the same floor, there's the Pink Room, which is the it's like a therapy rooms. They've got some stocked in there, and Global Tribe, the
Oh, yeah.
crystal shop. They've got them upstairs in their bookshop, which they have a plethora of other tarot decks as well. If anyone's interested in taking a look, there's
Oh,
plenty.
that's absolutely brilliant. And can I ask you, Johnny, have you always lived in Leeds?
Pretty much. I was born in Harrogate. I tried to say it like that on purpose, but I don't actually say it like that. Yeah, and then I've pretty much been in Leeds. Yeah, I've lived in my flat, which I'm in now, on the river, near the Leeds Bridge for about coming up to 12 and 15 years, something like that.
So it means that you're perfectly qualified to answer the 3 questions that I ask every guest. The first one being, what would you say is great about the city of Leeds?
I think it is the diversity of Leeds.
Yeah.
I think there's something for everyone, and there's nice little pockets of culture.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a really thriving, and I think in general, it's very open. Is Leeds as a city to anything,
Mm-hmm.
and I think anyone can fit right in, and you find that a lot of the times when I'm out, just I might strike up a conversation with somebody random in a bar, and they'll be, where are you from? What are you doing here? And then, like, it's usually I studied here or I visited here and I've never left, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I come across that quite a lot too.
Yeah.
And if you had to choose something that is not so great, what would be your choice?
One thing that really narks me is the traffic loop system.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a nightmare, because getting to somewhere in a car that might be round the corner, you have to go all around the houses
Mm-hmm.
just to get to that place. And if you're in a taxi and you've got lots of stuff and it goes down the wrong street, it's just an absolute nightmare. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, it causes so much trouble, and because they haven't for years, it's still not finished. They're constantly doing all these roadworks,
Yeah.
and it just causes so much aggro for everybody.
It really
Pedestrians
does.
as
Yeah.
well, you
Say again,
know.
sorry?
For pedestrians as well as
Yeah.
people who drive,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
cyclists.
I was speaking
It's a
to
burden.
a colleague yesterday, and he'd had to drive to work when normally gets the train, but obviously train strikes. And he was just saying how awful it is, and he hates driving in Leeds. And he was saying, you sort of heading towards somewhere, and then all of a sudden the road veers off, and the place that you're heading towards is just getting further away.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm at the minute. I don't even have a car, so it doesn't. It's not something that really, gets under my skin that much. But when I was thinking about these questions, it's just like, yeah, that's the first thing that popped into my head. So I thought I'd tell you that.
It's a very, very, very popular answer. I would say, I mean, I haven't checked the exact percentages, but I'd say it's probably getting to around 90% of people give that answer.
Wow. Well, you see, the thing is, because that's the thing. I thought, some, there will be other people who have said this, but if we're collectively saying it, then that
Yeah.
means that's definitely the problem, isn't it?
Absolutely. Like, I have no problem of, people saying the same answers at all. I never ask to know the answers beforehand, and I never have a problem with it, because, like you say, I just think, the more it heaps up.
Yeah.
And if somebody lived in Leeds for a very long time, would you be able to tell them about a hidden gem that they may never have heard of?
Well, again, I was kind of racking my brains with this one, and then I thought about my favourite watering hole at the minute, which is Northern Guitars.
Oh, yeah.
And even though it's not like it's a secret hidden place, there are quite a lot of people that still think it's just a guitar shop.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's, it does sell guitars upstairs, but downstairs it's quite a cool little rock bar.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want to give them a shout out, because a lot of my friends that used to live in Leeds that don't now, when they say, oh, where do you want to meet, and I'll say, oh, come meet me in Northern, and they're like, and what, the guitar shop? I'm like, yeah, don't worry, they sell beer. So
That's a good one. I'm pretty sure it's never come up, even though, I'm sure it's very well known. I go by it on the bus quite a lot.
right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
With it, it's a nice and easy one for me, because it's at the end of my street. So
Perfect for you. It's your local.
it is, yeah.
And I always ask guests if they have a track that they would like to feature. Can you tell me what you've chosen and why?
So I've chosen a track by Blue Jinns, which are a Leeds-based band. I contacted Kev, who's the lead singer, last night, and asked him for his permission to use a track, and he was over the moon about it.
Oh,
But
good.
I asked him for a track off his new album. But then this morning, I was listening to the first album, which was from 2019, and I changed my mind. So sorry, Kev. I've picked a song, the first track off the first album, just because I think it's a bit of a banger. And Kev's at the minute recording a demo / EP for my band, Johnny Cosmic and the Night Terrors.
Oh, wow.
So I thought I'd give Kev a bit of a shout out as well.
Oh, excellent. What's the song called that you've chosen?
The song that I've chosen, hang on, let me get it right, because I picked I picked one off the first album, didn't I?
I think it's called The Triangle.
The Triangle, that's the one. That's what I picked for you, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was originally going with one called Amputee, but then I decided on The Triangle this morning, because it just came onto my Spotify. And,
Excellent.
yeah.
Well, I'm sure people are going to really enjoy it. And when you get your tracks out as Johnny Cosmic and the Night Terrors, please remember you can always send me a track. I'll be more than happy to feature it.
Thank you for talking to me. It's been a pleasure.
No problem. I've really enjoyed it. What will you be doing with the rest of your day today, Johnny?
Well, the problem with my flat is because I work from home.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I'm on the top floor and it doesn't take much for the heat to rise up.
Oh yeah.
And even though I've got my balcony doors open, it just doesn't seem to let off any kind of. It's relentless. So I'm going to get out. I'm probably going to have a beer later on today. I do most of my work on an evening, so I have got plenty of work to be doing. I'll be doing that later on. I've just got to get my head around putting things into priority because my deadlines always seem to be at the same time.
That's always the way with deadlines, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming along and speaking to me. I'll put lots of links in the podcast notes that if people want to buy the Leeds Tarot cards, they're able to.
That's brilliant. Thank you. All of with the cards, you only get a booklet that gives you the names of who did what card.
Yeah.
There's not an explanation of the card or anything, but I did ask for the artist to do that, and if most of them have a little paragraph or blurb on our Instagram page.
Great, so people can check that there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thanks very much, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Cheers.
Johnny Cosmic, I'm sure you'll agree, what a great guest. Definitely check out the Leeds Tarot. I'll put lots of links in the podcast notes. Buy the deck, help Johnny. It looks like he may be doing a really exciting exhibition, which will be so good to go and see. And if that happens, I will be updating the links in the podcast notes. So keep a check for that. Johnny chose the track, The Triangle by Blue Jinns. It's really rocky and it sort of really goes fantastically well, I think, with the conversation that we had. So yeah, have a listen. Enjoy. Speak to you soon, Leeds.